480 BC, 300 men walked into a mountain pass knowing they would not walk out. They weren't the bravest soldiers in Greece. They were the ones who understood the math. The Persian army, estimates range from 100,000 to over 1,000,000, had already crossed into mainland Greece. The Spartan ephors faced a decision: do nothing and lose everything, or spend 300 men to buy time for the rest of Greece to mobilize. They chose the second option. This is not a story about heroism. It's a story about cost-benefit analysis under existential pressure. Before we talk about the battle itself, we need to ask, what did the Spartans know that made this trade acceptable? They knew Thermopylae was a choke point. The pass was roughly 50 feet wide, a place where numerical superiority collapsed into irrelevance. They knew the Persian infantry, however vast, could only attack in limited waves. And they knew something else, that Greece had maybe 10 days to assemble a defensive coalition. Those 10 days had a price. The price was 300 lives. Now here's what separates Stoic courage from recklessness. The Spartans didn't go to Thermopylae expecting to win. They went expecting to delay. King Leonidas and his men weren't delusional. They were pragmatists operating within a brutal framework. They had a mission: hold the pass for as long as possible, inflict maximum casualties, and then, and this matters, extract themselves when the time came. Except that's not what happened. On the third day of the battle, a local shepherd revealed a mountain path that bypassed the pass entirely. The Persians could flank them. Leonidas now faced a new calculation: retreat in good order and live to fight another day, or hold the line and almost certainly die. He chose to hold. Why? Because retreat meant the Persians would pour through the pass and crush the Greek coalition before it could form. The cost of leaving was higher than the cost of staying. He dismissed most of his troops. Around 700 Thespians and a handful of others stayed with him, not because they had no choice, because they understood the same math. In those final hours, they weren't thinking about glory or honor, at least not primarily. They were thinking about their families, their cities, their freedom. They were making a conscious decision to trade their individual survival for collective survival. That's not poetry, that's accounting. When the Persians finally breached the pass, Leonidas and his remaining men made their last stand. They died, all of them. But here's what happened next. The Greek city-states had their 10 days. Athens built its navy. Corinth mobilized its forces. Sparta itself prepared a second line of defense. Within months, the Persian advance halted at Salamis and Plataea. The 300 didn't stop the Persian Empire, but they stopped it long enough to matter. This is where Stoicism enters the picture. The Stoics, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, they all studied this decision, not because it was dramatic, but because it was rational. Leonidas didn't panic when the path was discovered. He didn't cling to an outdated plan. He reassessed the situation and made a new choice. He accepted what was within his control, his courage, his decision, his commitment, and released what wasn't, the outcome. Epictetus taught that we suffer not from events, but from our judgments about events. Leonidas's judgment was clear. Holding the pass was the right action, regardless of whether he survived it. He couldn't control the Persian numbers. He couldn't control the flanking path. He could only control whether he'd abandon his post. He chose not to. That choice, made calmly, with full knowledge of the cost, is what Stoicism calls virtue. But here's the part modern life gets wrong. Stoic courage doesn't mean never being afraid. It means acting despite fear, with clear eyes. Leonidas was afraid. His men were afraid. Fear is information, not a veto. They processed the fear, weighed it against their mission, and decided the mission mattered more. That's not fearlessness. That's decision-making under pressure. Now apply this to your own life. You face pressures, financial, professional, relational. You can't control the market, your boss's decisions, or other people's behavior. But you can control how you respond. You can gather information. You can make a plan. You can execute it with discipline. And when new information arrives, and it will, you can adjust without panic. That's the Thermopylae principle. Spartans didn't die for nothing, and they didn't die for everything either. They died for a specific, measurable goal: buying time. They succeeded. The cost was 300 lives. The benefit was the survival of Greek civilization. You'll make similar calculations your entire life, not with death, but with time, money, reputation, comfort. The question isn't whether you're willing to sacrifice. It's whether you're willing to sacrifice wisely. The Stoics understood that life is a series of choices made with incomplete information. You'll never have perfect clarity. You'll never know the full consequences of your decisions. But you can know your principles. You can know what matters to you. And you can act from that knowing, even when, especially when, the outcome is uncertain. That's what Leonidas did at Thermopylae. and it's what you're capable of doing right now in whatever pass you're standing in. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story of someone who understood how to make hard choices with clarity. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story of someone who understood how to make hard choices with clarity.